Several new chess engines are emerging every single year, and the latest one was in the late 2024. It was developed by a 17 years old and it's called Obsidian. But in this video I won't be talking about it. Instead, I will be showing you a game between my favorite chess program, Leela Chess Zero, against Torch, the new kid on the block. Now, Torch was developed in 2023, and according to the experts who have tested it, that Torch can be compared to the American world champion and chess grandmaster Paul Murphy, because Torch values more on center control and rapid pieces development. And some experts also who have tested Torch, and this can be very exciting because they said that Torch is the Mikhail Tal of all chess engines. It revives the romantic era of chess where sacrifices can be seen. Now, welcome to the 8th episode of the series Clash of the Titans, where powerful chess engines are competing against each other to the #1 position in the world. Without further ado, Torch is playing white and Leela is playing the black pieces, and white opens up with 1d4. Leela responds d6, e4 center control, g6, and we have the modern defense on the board. Torch developed the knight to c3 and Leela also developed the knight to f6. And we have bishop e3 and bishop g7. Now Torch pushes the pawn to f3. It is very clear what Torch wanted to do. Torch wanted to attack on the king side by pushing the g and the h pawn. And Leela respond calmly by playing c6, queen d2, b5. Leela wanted to create a counter-attack on the other side of the board, and Torch played h4, and Leela blocks this by playing h5. Now Torch play knight h3, and instead of capturing the knight on h3 with the light squared bishop, Leela just developed the bishop to b7. Now in this position, if a human will play this, like myself, a low-rated player, probably I would castle long in order for my other rook to go to the other side of the board so that it can help out with the massive attack. Or some human players will probably just develop the bishop to d3 in order that when the pawn pushes to b4 attacking the knight, then the knight can just retreat or hop to the square e2 without blocking the development of the light squared bishop. But instead, Torch attacks the center by playing e5 directly without even doing any of the human moves that come to mind. Now Leela respond by playing b4 attacking the knight, and before that, let's go back to e5. Let me show you a variation. In case if Leela captured the pawn on e5 and then d takes e, queen takes queen, bishop takes queen, and the knight retreats to d7, and then Torch will push the pawn to e6 and f will take e. In this position, Torch will have a massive 1.2 to 1.6 advantage, and this is what probably Torch wants when Torch pushes the pawn to e5. He wanted the early exchange of queens in the opening, but that didn't happen because Leela pushes the pawn and attack the knight on c3. And the game continue with knight a4. Of course, the knight will have to run away because it's been under attack, and then Leela also hopped the knight to d5. And the game continue with Torch pushing to e6. Then Leela, instead of capturing the pawn on e6, pushes the pawn to f5, now creating a weakness, a massive dark squared weakness on the king's side, which is now cannot be defended by its pawn. Game continue with bishop g5, now trying to capitalize on the weakness. Queen a5 attacks the knight, and Torch, instead of defending the knight, pushes the pawn to c4 and attacks the knight on d5, counter-attacking. Knight c7, and let's find out if, let's say, Leela captured the knight on a4, and this will be the continuation. C takes d5, c takes d, and rook c1 with a massive attack on the queen's side, because rook c1 will be an infiltration to the c7 square, which directly attacks the pawn on the e7 square as well as the bishop on the b7 square. Therefore, the only defense that Leela can do will be to hop the knight to c6, and the continuation will be knight f4, attacking the vulnerable g6 pawn as well as the d5 pawn, and then the defense will be rook c8, bishop d3, adding another attacker, and then knight takes d4. And in this position, instead of capturing any pawns like the g6, Torch will just castle. Now, but this didn't happen because the knight retreats back to c7, and the continuation will be knight f4, totally ignoring the hanging knight on a4, and that is really a free knight right there, a4, and Torch did not even bother defending it, and instead attacks the vulnerable g6 square. And Leela respond by taking the knight, and again Torch adds another attacker by developing the bishop to d3. Now, the reason why, probably, I would say probably because I don't know, the reason probably why Torch did this is a hanging pawn as well. It can be captured by this bishop, but Torch totally ignores any hanging pieces, and it can be captured. However, Torch probably realized that the black pieces, this knight, this bishop, and this rook, are all useless because it doesn't have any forward mobility at all. Therefore, all these pieces are no longer participating in the game, and even the queen, if you look at it, it cannot even go back and help out to defend the position. And the only pieces that are active at the moment is this bishop, and probably this rook can help out, but there's only two pieces against 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of the white's arsenal that are aiming on the king's side of the board. Therefore, Torch probably knew this already. That is why it ignores every single pieces that is hanging and proceeded with the pieces development and attack. Now the game continue with b3. Knight takes g6, knight takes e6, queen e2, and in this position the knight cannot move anywhere. Let's say the knight captures this or this, because it will be checkmate in 1 in the e7 square. Therefore the knight cannot move, so Leela instead pushes the king to f7, defending the knight. Now the game continue with d5. C takes d, bishop takes f5, and the queen retreats to help out. Rook d1 adds another attacker instead of any captures whatsoever. There's plenty of capture here, like let's say this pawn can be captured or this pawn can be captured. It adds to this attacker, the bishop, pressuring the knight. But instead, Torch played rook d1. B takes a2, one more square for promotion. This is really unbelievable. And knight takes h8, check. Bishop takes h8, f4. This is the only way, like, activating the queen. So the question here is, in this position, how would you activate the queen without even moving it? So Torch played f4, attacks the h5 pawn with a check. So that is how Torch activate the queen without even moving. It's really fascinating to watch this new engine. Now the game continues with knight takes f4, and now this bishop is aiming the queen and the queen is aiming the bishop, and this knight can be captured with this bishop actually, but Torch preferred to add the pressure on the queen by playing queen c2, and the continuation will be queen c7. Of course, the queen has to run away, and in this position, instead of capturing the knight on f4, Torch just castle, adding another piece for the attack. And queen b6 check, king h1, queen takes b2, and now the pawn can promote to another queen. And Torch played bishop g6 with a check, king g8, bishop h7 check, king has to run away to f8, rook takes f4 with a check, and king runs to e8 square, and this time the queen check on g6 and king runs to d7. Bishop takes e7, threatening mate in 1, and Leela defended this by playing bishop e5. Now let's say, for example, if the king will take the bishop, let's say like this, then it will be a lateral mate with rook f7 check. Therefore Leela didn't play that and defended it by playing bishop e5. Game continue with rook f7, and king runs to c6, queen e6, and the queen sacrifice by Leela going to d4. Now in this position, if the rook captures the queen, then a1 promotes the pawn to a queen with a check, and it's not just a check but it's checkmate. Therefore the queen cannot be captured on d4. So Torch played rook f1 instead, defending the other rook and at the same time defending the promotion square a1. But that did not hold Leela, and Leela pushes the pawn to a1 and promotes it to a queen. And Torch just played c takes d5 with a check, king c7, rook takes the newly promoted queen, bishop takes d5, and bishop d6 with a check. Bishop takes d6, rook f7 with a check, king c6, queen c8 with a check, king b6. The king is now running for its life, so rook b1 check, bishop b4, queen c7 with a check, king b5, rook f4 attacking the queen, and at the same time indirectly attacks the bishop on b4. Knight a6. Finally, the knight was developed in the endgame, and the continuation will be queen d7 with a check, king c5, rook takes d4, king takes rook, rook d1 with a check, king c5, rook takes d5 with a check, king c4, queen b5 check, king b3, rook d3 with a check, king b2, queen e5 with a check. The king is running for its life here, and it cannot be saved. Sooner or later it's going to fall. And king moves to a2, queen e2 check, bishop blocks the check, and the queen captured the bishop with a check, and the king runs to b1 and torch. My new favorite finishes the game in style by playing rook a3 checkmate. I hope you like the game, and hinaot to na kita mga pagtulunan nga natunan, and hantod sa sunod. Bye for now.